Welcome to Who's Sitting at Your Table. Hello, Carrie. Thanks for joining us. Um,
Hi, thanks for having me.
and so today's we have a really special guest. So Carrie Faulkner is joining us. She's an end of life doula and a healing guide. So let me just break down a little bit about what we're going to be covering here. So I like to say a little something special with Carrie and her grace. Some people guide us in the world. Today we're honoring a woman who lovingly helps guide people out with grace, peace, and healing. Carrie Faulkner is more than just a healer. She's family. We've known each other for over 30 years. And she's walked with people through their final chapters, holding sacred space when it matters the most. This is not just a conversation, it's a tribute to a queen who works in a space where few people brave enough hold. So let's welcome Carrie to the table. Let's kick it off, Carrie. Tell me how your day's been today.
I've had a great day. Thank you.
You've had a long day of work already, and you've made space at the table for us. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. Um, so, Carrie, let's talk a little bit about our childhood. I know we said we know each other and our families know each other. You're a sister-in-law, essentially, through my sister. My sister's married to your husband's brother. And
Yeah.
so we've spent a lot of holidays together. We've watched our children grow up. In fact, your children are having babies too. So, I can't even believe you're a grandmother. I suggest we call you Grandma. Right?
I'm a
Yeah. Oh, I
nana.
like it. Okay. No, grandma, you're
Yeah.
Nana. I like that
Yeah.
better. Okay. Well, let's go back to your childhood. Tell me a little bit about Carrie as a little girl and go back to the things that you remember that hold close to your heart.
I was thinking about your questions prior to coming on here. One of the most memorable part of my childhood, I would say, is growing up around my grandparents, being able to have them at my house during the week or going there for over the weekend, spending my summers with them. My grandfather, he built dams for a living, so they would take their camper trailer and their car, and they'd be in a campground with all these women and men, and the men would be building dams and we would
Wow.
be yeah, just cooking everything from scratch, just really being able to spend time with my grandparents. My grandfather retired early, so some days we would come home from school and their motorhome would be in the driveway, and we were lucky enough to have them in our lives growing up until I was about 26, 27. So I had them for quite a long time.
Good. It sounds like a very treasured moment. Building things with scratch. You're doing something very special. It's not like you're just doing something very casual. It's something that you're building. You're teaming with your family. You're doing things. You're making things happen. That's
Yeah.
special. I remember when I was a little kid and I see my grandfather doing, even my father doing stuff. You'd look at them and you think they could do no wrong. Like they're so strong, right? That whole feeling this that you got to do that with your grandparents. That's special.
And you don't really feel that until later on, right? Because when grandma would give me a coffee can and say, go down to the creek and get blackberries because she was going to make a pie, it was like,
Oh, wow.
oh my gosh,
Yeah,
oh, I got to go all the way down and get, but
that's
those
funny.
are
Yeah.
the things that mean the most to me now, right?
Yeah.
My kids, unfortunately don't have grandparents that they really grew up with because everybody died pretty early. I wish that they could have had the same experience as me.
I completely see that. Yeah. And I like when you said, like, you're like rolling your eyes, like, oh, I gotta go do
Um,
that. And then now you're like, when you tell the story, you like to believe it, like, oh, I went down and I gathered berries and my grandmother made the pie, right? It's like,
yes,
but
homemade crust.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's funny. What about siblings? So tell me who, about your siblings. How many do you have?
I have two sisters. I have an older sister and a younger sister. We were born and raised in Napa.
Okay.
And
Local.
I currently live in Vacaville. I still have one sister living in Napa, and my older sister lives in Texas.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
alright.
Yeah.
And you are I believe in, communication that we've had before, you're middle like I am, I'm the
I
middle
am.
child. Yeah.
Yep.
The little
Yep.
the little daredevils.
Little daredevils. And when I had when my middle daughter became the middle daughter, my dad said, you better never let her have middle child syndrome. And I said, what is middle child syndrome? And
Yeah.
he said, exactly. I made sure you never had it. So
Oh, that's funny.
she's got
I
it.
So I wonder what the middle child syndrome is then.
Yeah,
that's funny. Yeah. I
yeah.
well, I'll have to wait to ask him when it's my turn to go up.
Yeah. The only thing I can think of is that middle child is like, you have pictures of Trevor and you have pictures of Lindsay, but you don't have a lot of me. I said, well, it's a good thing we're twins because you know you're mine.
That's funny. Oh, that's hilarious. Well,
Yeah.
so now, Carrie, let's talk a little bit about your earliest memories of connection and joy.
So I think my earliest moments of connection actually go back to my grandmother, my maternal grandmother. I talk about her being around a lot when we were younger, but her and I shared a special connection. We didn't talk about the connection a lot, but we were on the same wavelength, right? If I felt like somebody was going to die, I would always tell her because somebody was going to die. Probably the
Wow.
most like pronounced one was 1992, and we were having Thanksgiving, and my grandfather had been sick, and I was like, grandma, like, something's wrong with him, like I think he needs to go to the doctors, I feel like he's going to die, and we would talk about that. And December 11th my father died, so
Wow.
we had the same connection of somebody passing away. It was just not the right person who it was going to
Wow.
be. Hmm.
Wow, Carrie,
And so
I mean, seriously, I'm getting chills again. Like
yeah.
that's incredible. I mean, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And
that's
so she and
special.
I both kind of shared that.
And she embraced you on that because she knew she had those things because
Yeah. Hmm.
most people would like, "Oh, don't say that," or, she embraced you, and so that I could see where you have that deep connection with her. She felt the
Even
same things.
Absolutely. And even years after that, like I would have feelings or dreams or that something was going to happen. I always would tell her too, because so often we do have these intuitions and you don't tell anybody and it happens. You're like, oh my gosh, like I should have said something. So she's
Yeah.
somebody I always confided in when I had those premonitions or whatever. And she would do the same. And it might not happen right away, but it would always happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you
So.
mentioned your father passing. Tell me a little bit more about that and how that loss shaped you today.
Yeah. So I was 22 when he passed away. He passed away suddenly at 53 years old. He was here one day and gone the next day. And that I'm just now starting to be able to live with that.
Yeah.
It's been 30 years. December 11th was 30 years. Walking through, this journey of my life, I've learned a lot about grief and healing and how to process those things. So, he died of a heart attack, but
Wow.
it was very sudden. So it was a traumatic death. And I didn't cope with it for many
Yeah.
years. I didn't know how to cope with it. I hadn't lost anybody else in my life. Like I had my grandparents still. Like usually, you get practice losing somebody, right? So the first person that I lost was very devastating.
Yeah, I
And
bet.
we didn't even have time. You think about sometimes like, would you rather lose somebody suddenly or would you rather watch somebody have cancer or a few weeks to live and kind of be able to come to terms with it. And although neither one of those are good, so it really affected me. After he passed away, I kind of was numb for many years. You never want to feel that pain again. And so the only way to do that is to step back from the people that you love and you do the basics with them, but emotionally you kind of check
You
out.
really think about it too. At our age today, we're more mature and loss is tough at this age. So you were only like you said 22. So, you're not mature enough yet to
No.
understand that. And so,
Hmm.
especially somebody as close as your father, right? It's traumatic to lose a grandparent, but like your father, like losing your father is tough, right? It's
Yeah, sure.
yeah, I can relate. I lost, my dad. You knew my dad, and
Yeah.
I lost him. He was 77, and I would say early 50s, and so I was definitely devastated. I felt a loss. I walked around feeling an emptiness, and for a long time. But I was mature enough to accept it. I had lost other people in my life, whereas at 22, you still need his guidance. You still need him there for you, right? So yeah, and he's probably was your rock because I know my dad was my rock.
Yeah, I was his boy. I was one of 3 girls, and so kind of like you.
Yeah, tomboy. Yeah.
Yeah, I went with him to the dump,
Yeah, no, same thing, yeah.
yeah, so he was always, a kind of a tough dad, not not in a mean way, but, I felt mean at the time, but he just only
It's tough
wanted the
love.
best for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, he was. And I was such a rowdy child, and I gave him and my mom so much grief. And that's another thing too, when they're gone, you're like, oh man, I put him through so much. But
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about this loss, and was it part of the thing that shaped you to this calling as an end of life doula? How did you know that this is what you wanted to do? Tell us a little bit about what you do, your journey in your career, and how you got to this point.
okay. So with my father dying, that's where it intrigued me, what happens after you die. We're always told that when you die, you go to heaven and you meet up with everybody who's passed away before you. But when you're faced with somebody dying that's so close to you, you really wonder what does happen, right? And so I would just dive into what happens, when you die. I would read articles, anything that had to do with dying and death. I was just totally interested in because I wanted to know where my dad was. Is it true that he's floating around here? Can he be here? Can I ask for a sign? That type of thing. So when I had the opportunity to start working in hospice, I always gravitated towards the end of life, right? I loved helping families walk through that chapter of their life, but it's also an honor to be there. So to be a chosen one, to be there when somebody is actually passing, I like to tell people it's an honor when a family member asks you if you'd like to be there when their baby is being born. You know you're a chosen one because that is not everybody gets to be there when someone's having a baby. So you feel so special and so lucky. And it's the same way when somebody dies. The chosen few gather around their loved one and they cross over to the other side. Now, I really like being with somebody when they're actively dying because I feel like there's a portal, right? Like you're going to
Mhm.
be the closest to heaven
Wow.
ever when
Yeah.
somebody's passing away. So if there were ever a chance that my father or a loved one could be close to me, it would be when that was happening.
That's
So,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Very,
so I was,
very special too, right? Because
yeah,
it's a safe place for you. It sounds like it's a moment where anybody that you've ever lost, you're the closest to them because that's the path to the door,
right. It's the
essentially.
portal to the other
Yeah,
side.
that is incredible.
I also, learned through being with many families at the end of life is that, I do believe that there is a heaven, right?
Mhm.
And
I do
I do
too.
believe that your spirits can be anywhere. I do
Me
believe
too.
if you ask for a sign, they're going to give it to you. Because I've been with so many families who are patients that say, they're sitting up talking like you and I, and they'll be like, oh, I didn't tell you, but last night my mom was here, and oh, she was, what'd you guys talk about? And they might reminisce or anything like that. Or, oh, my dog was at the foot of the bed. He slept here all night long. And so when you see and hear that over and over and over again, different families, different situations, like how can it be
How can
wrong?
it be
Right.
wrong? I've had experiences since my dad
Yeah.
passed. My mom has had. You, I'm sure, have had it with your dad. And for me, and some people kind of laugh about it, right? And they're like, "Oh, well, whatever." What's wrong with believing it, right? If you feel it and you believe it, it's not a negative thing. I really truly believe that. I believe that they are there watching over us and will like signs will happen. We talked about that earlier about the mail truck up there, the experience that I felt my dad visited me when I was reaching out to him and thinking I wish he was there for Josh's graduation. And even the visits after my dad passed, there were moments my mom shared even. It's like, how could that Ho
Not be.
that's exactly, and even let me just say this, Yuki, my dad's dog, right? Now this is a dog that cannot lie. Dogs are real, and you know that every day when my dad was alive, Yuki would go on the couch, and she would lay on that little den couch, and they would take their naps every day at noon, and do you know, up until her passing, every day at noon, she slept on that couch?
Oh,
Can you
that's
believe that? I believe
no.
my dad came and took his naps with her.
Uh-huh.
She every day would go and sleep on that couch at noon
Uh-huh.
for my dad. So,
That is
dogs don't
amazing.
lie. Dogs don't
No,
lie. I'm
they
sorry.
don't lie.
No, it gives me chills just talking about it.
They're really good at intuition, actually.
Yeah.
I feel
Mhm.
like They can definitely tap into spirit, and they see and hear things that we don't. So sometimes if you're alone in the room with your dog and they're kind of staring off or whatever, you're like, what are you looking at?
Exactly. I know, I've seen, like, even videos on TikTok where people did that with their dogs too. I'm like, "What?" So, yeah, I believe it. So,
Yes.
that's great. Now okay, so I understand now why you're drawn to this
Yeah.
end of doula. I want you to kinda break down because I've actually I was excited about this interview, and I can't wait to interview my friend Carrie. She's an end of life doula. So, for the audience that really don't know, tell us, describe it. And what do you do? What does an end-of-life doula do?
Yeah. So, when you talk about being a doula, everybody's like, oh, I've heard of birthing doulas, but I've never heard of end of life
Mhm.
doulas. And I think that people who have been doing what I do have been doing it for years. It was just never named, right? It might have been the medicine woman in a village, or it might have been a hospice nurse or a volunteer that was coming and aiding when somebody was, passing. But now it has a name. So I tell everybody that you labor into this world and you labor out of this world. The day
Mm,
you're born, you start laboring out of this world. So you don't know when the day is that your chosen day to go to heaven, but every day you're one day closer to leaving this earth. And so that is what an end of life doula is. I hold space. I help families. It might even be I am doing a legacy project. Let's say I have a patient that loved to write poetry, and he or she and I secretly record this poetry. And when they pass away, we hand it out at the funeral, right? So everybody has their
wow.
voice. Or I get beautiful stationery and they'll write, their most memorable time with each child. So it might be Tony, right? And I'm sitting with your mom and I say, okay, what's your earliest memory? What's the funniest thing she did? How did life change for you when you had her? And I try to go through those milestones,
Wow.
right? Or when you became a grandmother for the first time, because even just a few words goes a long way. So when the patient
Yes.
passes away, I give these letters or I give these things to the
Beautiful.
family, and they cherish it forever, right? And I tell
That's
everybody,
amazing.
we can't change what's happening, but we can change the way we walk through it,
Yeah.
right? And if we do everything with grace and with dignity and pride and joy, and we leave no rock unturned, at the end of the day, when your loved one passes away and you say, that was the saddest day of my life, but I wouldn't have changed a thing,
Mm,
then we're doing something right because you're
amazing.
not being held hostage to the day your loved one passed away.
That's so beautiful, Carrie. Gosh,
Mhm.
that's very special.
Thank
I
you.
mean, you must get a lot of I mean, first of all, it's there's a lot of sadness too, but your strength and being able to walk through this with families and do it over and over again is amazing.
Thank
I'm
you.
without words.
Yeah.
But also, I'm so honored and I have so much respect for you for doing this for these families. And it's so beautiful. I it never would have known had we not done this interview. I'm really very impressed.
Thank
I'm very
you.
impressed.
It means a lot to me to change the way people feel and think about end of life. Of course, it is scary to think one day we might not be here, but what's scary about it is we're going to miss the people that we have around us, right?
Mhm.
And the people around us are going to miss us. So one of the things as being an end of life doula, like I see life differently. I see it in a different window because everything I do has purpose. If I have two daughters, so if I buy one purse, I make sure I buy another one after. I had two little boys here for the summer and I wanted to do a paint night. And he's like, why are we going to do a paint night? He's like, I don't want to do a paint night. I said, well, because I want to build memories with you. He's like, memories are built in your mind. I said, yeah, but later on, when you come across something you did with somebody, it makes that memory much more special. And
Mhm.
he's 15 and he's like, okay, you're right. So we did paint night.
Oh,
So I always try to live with a purpose, and
yeah.
leave people feeling like I love them and they're seen, when I walk away because I truly never know when my last day will
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, of course, that's like living
Yeah,
in the moment. That's kind of like
yeah,
my motto is I
yeah,
I I try to practice that living in the moment because you don't miss the small things, and the small things are really the big things
yeah,
that people
yeah,
don't even realize, you know?
yeah.
So, now we're gonna kinda switch into another direction of something that you
Okay.
do, Reiki.
Uh huh.
Reiki, you do
Reiki. Uh
Reiki,
huh.
yeah. Okay, so my understanding of Reiki is, like, it's a gentle general energy-based healing practice, and I know it was originated in Japan. My mom's
Mhm.
Japanese, so I know
Yep.
about that. And tell me a little bit about that practice and how you got involved in it, and tell me what how you actually implement that in what you do today.
Yeah. So I decided, being an end of life doula and watching the medical professionals around me when they're interacting with patients, everybody wants something from you. Time to eat, time to sleep, time to, roll over, time to take your medication. And these patients just lay there and take these orders day in and day out. But when is the last time somebody sat down and touched your arm or gave you a hug and said, "Hey, what can I do for you?" Something that would be for you, that will let you escape what's going on in your
The
life every
mundane
day. Yeah.
thing, yeah.
Exactly. So I started doing aromatherapy massages. So I have, lavender oil, whatever different types of oil, and I start on their feet and their
Wow.
legs and their hands and spend about an hour with each patient. And as I have a patient right now who's 102 years old, she'll be 102. When I started
Wow.
doing aromatherapy on her feet, the first thing I thought was, wow, if she had an Apple Watch, how many steps would she have taken in 100? And she's a very beautiful lady. She grew up in San
Yeah.
Francisco. Her father was a professional baseball player. And so she had
Oh,
chefs and she was very
wow.
spoiled. But I was like, wow, when is the last time she actually maybe sat down and had a pedicure, right?
Yes.
When's the last time somebody sat down and rubbed her feet and had a conversation with her that didn't want something from her? And so I started doing that, and I started thinking to myself, okay, what else can I bring to the table for my patients? I can do, we do sound, and I really love the idea of Reiki. And
Yeah.
so I thought, it's something that I can do. I'm very much a believer in it. And you can do Reiki on somebody who's a non believer and they're a believer afterwards.
Yeah.
But it was just something.
Do you do it for other people outside of your patients, or is it involved in just your patient caring?
So it had only been involved in my patient care, but I was recently asked by North Bay Hospital in Fairfield, myself and two other Reiki practitioners, to come in and do Reiki for the staff.
Wow.
And
Great.
yeah, the volunteer coordinator, her name is Robin. She'd been working on this for about a year because, getting a hospital to buy into something holistic is also, a big deal. So
That
Stanford has
is.
Reiki practitioners. The VA has Reiki practitioners, so she had to put this whole presentation together. And when she announced that she was there to introduce the Reiki, like, so many people were clapping and knew what Reiki
Wow.
was. And so people who wanted to experience it, we broke off into rooms and we were doing Reiki for the nurses, any
That's wonderful.
clinician that was wanting it. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
doing it in the hospital setting now. And that was
That's
really
great.
stepping outside my comfort zone because doing it with somebody who's end of life is completely different. Doing it for somebody who's actually looking for emotional healing too.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
So now I want to ask you a question. I know the work that you do is very sacred, and it's also emotionally intense. So what do you think is the most misunderstood thing about death and dying in your experience?
That it's scary.
Hmm. Yeah.
Right?
But he's
Because
afraid of it. Yeah.
yeah, everybody's afraid. And a lot of people are afraid to come on hospice or even talk about death, because then it becomes real. So if we just avoid it, then it's non existent. But we're
And
all
we all
going to
tend to
pass
do that
away.
in general, but most
Yeah,
people do. Not just with death, I mean, in general, people say, "Well, just tuck it away, I'll avoid it, and I don't have to deal with it," right?
that's
But death
right.
is like you said earlier, when we were born, we're on the journey to we're all gonna die, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
why
I
not
think
try to
trying
find it like you find it? Very,
yeah,
it's precious the way you see it.
yeah, absolutely. And so I think that changing the way people feel and think about dying is something that I really try to do. And we're all going to die, and we've all experienced loss. So I think that for the most part, we think about how the people who are living feel when we're gone. And if you think deep into your own thoughts about you passing away, that's one of the things that I think I always go to is how somebody's going to miss me. So I think that living with intention and purpose and leaving people, and when you see them feeling, grateful for the time that they spent with you, will make it so when you do pass away, your loved ones feel much more at peace.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
that's
yeah, so it's
completely
it's
right.
changing the way,
Well,
yeah.
you've changed just in the short time that we've been talking here, you've changed the way I see death. I
Thank
mean,
you.
I don't know that I was necessarily scared of it. It was more
Mhm.
uncertainty.
Yeah.
And then I also worried about the people that will be living, our kids, our families, right? Are they gonna be okay when I'm gone?
Yeah.
That's I wanna make
Exactly.
sure that they're gonna be okay, right?
Yeah.
So it's not so much I just know I believe it's a beautiful place. When we
Yeah.
go, it's gonna be a beautiful place.
Yeah.
So that's just my belief. But
Yeah.
you've changed the way I see death. I mean, the way you talk about it is so beautiful and natural, the way you
Yeah.
describe it. So,
I could
um,
talk about death and dying for hours. And so sometimes a little helpful hint would be if you're having a proud moment about one of your children, write it down, put it in an envelope, date it, and put it in your sock drawer. And it doesn't mean much to you today, but later on when your child opens a sock
that's a
drawer and they
good
go, "Oh my
yeah,
gosh, mom wrote this," and it's just simple. You just put it in there, you forget about it. And when they're going through your stuff the day that you're not here, they're going to be like, "Wow, mom left us all these treasures." And so it's little things like that that
that's a
keep the
great
living.
that's great advice. I think I
Yeah,
write in a journal every day, but that's not enough. I think that how you said it, like maybe get a jar and like a note and just throw stuff in a jar, little notes in a jar maybe and keep
my
it.
mom actually had manila envelopes for us.
Oh,
So they
that's
were in a
great.
filing cabinet. And she'd always say, "I put your card in." We'd have contests at Mother's Day who had the best card. And so when she passed away, that was my most exciting thing. I'm like, "Oh my
To
gosh,
read.
I got to get
Yeah.
into my envelope," right? And what do we have? Things from kindergarten,
Oh my
letters, like
god.
anything
That's
it
so
might be.
cute. That's adorable.
You borrowed $200 for PG&E or whatever. You know what I mean?
I love you could laugh about that one now, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, and each of us, and mine had cutouts of the newspaper from Trevor's baseball time, and just those things that as moms, and we're busy living, we don't stop to reflect on. But as a grandma, right? Because now I'm a grandma, and you're taking that time to suck it up, right? Those little things mean more to a grandma than they do to a mom. But however, when your mom is gone, you're going to be like, "Holy cow, she saved these things for me," right?
Mm,
So yeah,
that's
well, the long
precious.
answer. Yeah,
So, no, so we've talked a lot about you
mhm,
taking care of everybody
yeah.
else. How do you take care of yourself when you're holding space for so many other people, your family, your patients? Tell me how you're emotionally handling it. What do you do to take care of yourself?
I love horses, and I have a friend. She has a therapeutic riding center in American Canyon, and we do a lot with her. We bring horses to communities. I bring them to my hospice patients, and so I would say I don't get to do it a lot, but I would say spending time out at the ranch riding the horses or my dogs. I have Great Danes. My last two Great Danes have been therapy dogs. I lost one right before his fifth birthday to bone cancer. So I went from November to February without a dog. And now we have Cruz, who's 6 months old, but he really mended my broken heart. And I think I cuddle him. I just pet him and spend time with him. He goes to work with me every day,
Well, that's
and he's kind of my safe space. Yeah.
yeah. He can go to work with you every day. That's awesome.
Yeah, I drive a minivan. I didn't when my kids were little, but I have one for my dog.
So are you thinking about making Cruise what do
Therapy
they
dog.
call therapy dog? Yeah. Are you
Yeah,
thinking about
he
doing that?
actually, we've already started training.
Oh,
We start
awesome.
training at 8 weeks old. So, you teach them the basics: sit, stay, place. And 2 days a week, we have a trainer that comes in and works with he and I. It's more work on my part because it has to be consistency, right? And we love to give in to their cuteness, but especially a Great Dane, it takes a lot of work. But yeah, he is training to be a therapy dog.
That's great. See,
Yeah.
like everything that you've talked about has been giving back. And I think in some ways I can relate to you because I'm all about women supporting women. It's a passion for me. I want women to realize that we're capable of so many things and be proud of who you are and go after what you want to do. That's a passion for me. Anything around supporting women. And so that's why we're doing this podcast thing. But you are a giving person to others. Think about the work you do and then all the special moments that you're trying to save for your kids. So when you go that you're leaving something behind for them.
Yeah.
And now you're getting your puppy into therapy mode so that he can give to other
Yeah.
people as well. So would it be fair to say that these things feed you your energy. It's what gets you more emotionally balanced. I mean, I know you go out and you do the horse thing and you like your dogs. So these things must be stuff that feed into you that give you more. I like to call it superpower.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
time out for yourself, to feed your soul. So this must feed back into you.
Yeah, I don't think I do a lot for myself. As far as like taking time for myself. What I feel like feeds my soul is when I see the connection between families and loved ones. When I am working with gentleman who's passing away and his daughter is there with him, like, oh my gosh, like, I've never had that opportunity. So making sure that that experience for them goes, beautifully, that's where I see like the gratitude in my heart. That's what feeds my soul, is giving back to my families, so that,
It
I always
fills
say
your
we
cup.
don't.
It fills you
Yeah,
up.
we don't have do-overs in hospice. You have one chance
Mm-mm.
to get it right. And
Exactly.
so so you got
Humorous about it, but it's truth.
yeah, you don't. And so many people just feel, they get sent to a hospice agency and they think that's the experience they're supposed to have. And so many
Yeah,
have terrible experiences. So many people are afraid to come on hospice or talk about dying because it was so traumatic for the last person that they lost. Like hospice was a terrible, they brought in just morphine or whatever it might be. And so really changing that's
perspective.
what fulfills my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because that was gonna be my next question, was gonna be, what's something you wish more people would, what was misunderstood, right? And you just
Mhm.
kinda just answered that.
Yeah.
You're trying to pave the way and change the way people think about death and how, like you said, hospice, when they go into hospice. Because when somebody says to me before today, when somebody would say to me, "Oh, my father went into hospice," I'm like, "Oh, that's really heavy," right? You're like,
Yeah.
"Oh my god." But the way you describe it and the way the end of life doula does it, it's more of a gentle, loving, caring departure.
Yeah. And I tell everybody it's just the next level of care. That's
Mhm.
all that hospice is. Medicare had to come up with a guideline that you would die in 6 months or less to be on hospice, but that's just a guideline. You're not going to leave this earth any day sooner than God intended you to if
Yep.
you come on hospice. I tell everybody only God knows when it's our time. Could you die in 6 months? Absolutely. Could you live another 2 years? Of course you could. But hospice is diagnosis driven. So if you have a diagnosis that qualifies you for all these amazing services your insurance covers, you might as well get it, right? Throw
Yeah.
the H word out. We never
Mhm.
have to say it again. It's
Mhm.
just the next level of care, and we are going to live every day. We don't know the quantity of life that we have, but we know every day we want quality of life. And
Yeah.
so, if I can empower families to think about it that way, 99% of the time they say, okay, we'll try it. Otherwise, doctors or families are only coming on at the very end where hospice is scary, where it is like,
Yeah.
oh, hospice.
Yeah.
But they've
Yeah.
done a study that the sooner you come on hospice, the longer you live, and because you're able to manage all the comorbidities and you take the stress off the family, and it's really just a beautiful thing. So,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, because that was gonna be my next question. Like, what would you say to someone who's, scared or of death
yeah,
and is
yeah.
struggling, with grief, right? And because if they go into hospice, these are scary things for them. You make it seem so gentle. And let's just say so somebody's gonna have to go into hospice or a family member has to go into hospice. Is there something that they need to do to get like an end of life doula involved in that, or does it just come naturally with that?
Yeah, not every agency has an end of life doula. I actually work for a veteran owned and nurse
Mm,
owned agency, and end of life doulas are not recognized in the Medicare billing. Like when you send a nurse or a social worker over to someone's house, they bill for those visits, but end of life doula is not recognized by insurance.
okay.
So the agency has to come out of pocket for that doula. So as far as I know, we are the only agency that has an end of life doula.
Wow. What agency is
Yeah.
that you're at? Can you wanna do a little shameless plug on your agency?
Yeah. So I work for Solano Care Hospice and Palliative Care, and we're based out of Solano County, and we are veteran and nurse owned. I wouldn't work anywhere else.
That's
The
amazing.
company
Yeah.
I work for is privately owned, and our owner leads with her heart every single day. So yeah, it's pretty beautiful.
And as far as your Reiki, if somebody wanted to get involved or get in touch and learn more about it, would you be open to having somebody reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things is like stepping outside my comfort zone, right? And so
Uh-huh.
when I did it at North Bay for the 3 people that I saw, like I was like, "Oh my gosh, like I can do this." And I've been wanting to do it. So, yes, please somebody
Okay, so I'll make sure I'll get all the information from you
okay.
and
Yeah.
put it at the end of this podcast and so that people have a way to contact you. So I'll get
Yes.
that information from you. Lastly, before we wrap up, I just want to leave us with a piece of wisdom here. What's something you carry with you daily that helps ground you on your purpose? Is there something that you
Ooh.
do and carry daily that helps ground you?
Yeah, I actually carry a pendulum with me every day.
I have one too. I love
Do
them. Yes, I do. Not a lot of people know about that, but I love it.
keep it right here next to my heart. I don't
Oh,
have it on me right this second, but I don't leave the house without it.
yeah.
And so, yes, I carry a pendulum. I will
Awesome.
also do some aromatherapy myself. If I'm feeling overwhelmed or anything, I'll use peppermint and lavender, are my two go to. But yeah,
Yeah.
but a pendulum I carry with me every
That's
day.
Carrie, this has been so amazing. I thank you for showing us, that there's sacredness in endings, right? I learned a lot. It's a beautiful place, a space that you hold there. You remind us that healing means that you have to live in the present. The present moment is special. We love you for that.
If it doesn't feel like sunshine, then
Mhm.
walk away. Surround
Yeah.
yourself with people and things that feel warm and
Yes.
inviting. And if it feels yucky, you don't need it.
Yeah, that's and you don't yeah, exactly, 100%.
Yeah.
Even when we are in a space where we know we're on our way out the door, you still
Yeah.
have a right to choose what you want, right? Right, if it doesn't
Absolutely.
feel right, then kick it out. But
Right.
I just wanna let you know we love you, we see
Thank
you,
you.
queen, and we honor
Thanks,
you.
Queen. I love Queen.
Thanks for
I always tell my friends, I'm
yeah,
like, yes, Queen.
yes, yes, queen, and thank you for pulling up a chair at our table today.
Hey, thanks for having
Before
me.
we wrap up, I just wanted to get in a little teaser for our episode 13. Before we go next week, we're going to have a powerful conversation around empty nesters. And Carrie, you've
Oh,
already experienced that kind of stuff,
yeah.
right? So there are some moms, like including myself. Josh is going to go off to college, and so
Yeah.
letting go and not holding on and rediscovering ourselves, empty nesters, letting go. For the listeners out there listening to us, you can follow us and listen to this podcast and other podcasts on Spotify and YouTube. And please follow us and like and share and subscribe to us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and X. Until
Well, you know
then,
what's
oh,
funny?
go ahead.
Is you called it your next episode on your podcast, but it's actually the next episode in our lives too, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Right? You live
Yeah,
in the moment. It's the next
that's right.
episode,
It's the
right?
next episode.
I think one of those T-shirts that says next episode.
That's
You know
it.
those little T-shirts?
100%. I
Well,
want one
guys, and
too.
until next time, keep showing up, keep making space for the things that matter, like Carrie does, and see everybody later next time. Carrie, thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you.
us. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Okay, bye.